YouTube. It's your boy McLavishh, and we back at it. I'm gonna try to do this in one take, man, because I want it to be as authentic and real as possible. First and foremost, man, all praise be to God. Alhamdulillah. I am so thankful for the opportunity that He has presented. By saying He, I realize that I'm kind of limiting my perspective. So we're not going to limit our perspectives here. I want everybody to make sure they got a notepad and stuff like that, because I may drop some things that you don't really think about on a day-to-day basis. And I'm just truly thankful for the experiences in life that God has presented me, and the opportunities that I've faced, the trials and the tribulations that have grown me into the man that I am today. With that being said, man, anybody who comes through and supports me, man, I appreciate it. This is something I've been reflecting on for a while, especially just being 2 years. You know, I've still got a lot more to go. But just 2 years in the Navy has taught me a lot about myself and a lot about the world in the sense of my spiritual journey and the things that I have done in order to overcome myself first and foremost. Because I realized that in order to change the world, you have to change yourself first. And that's major key. The biggest thing that I've really been contemplating these past couple of weeks as far as this reflective mind state I've been in is what I've truly learned, you know, and you have to have that honest conversation with yourself of how far have you changed in these past couple of years or weeks or month that since you've decided to work on the growth of myself. That's the biggest thing. And I'm in a very reflective state today, and I'm truly thankful from the mindset that I have, you know, and I got about 47 minutes here on this video, so I'm going to try to do the best thing that I can, which is try to fit it all into these 47 minutes, okay? And like I said, thank you to everybody who's come through, and let's get right into it, man. First and foremost, let's start off with the background. What was I before the Navy? As you see, I am in the Navy. I can't tell you what I do or where I'm positioned just for operational security purposes. I don't know who'll see this. So I am in the Navy. I am a active duty sailor, as they will call it. Prior to joining the Navy, I worked the basic 9 to 5s, and I'm just not saying these are basic or anything by any means. You got to do what you got to do in order to survive in this world. But I did work the 9 to 5s. I started off as the bag boy, the one that went and grabbed the carts and bagged everybody's groceries. And then I worked my way up, you know, and you got to do that. You know, you have to learn how to be a follower before you have to be a leader, so you can value your followers if you were to become a leader. So I was a bag boy, and I worked my way up to Kroger supervisor. And I think a lot of my background and experience comes from, you know, dealing with multiple personalities. That was like my first experience, especially as a cashier and a front end supervisor in Kroger, is when you really start to deal with different personalities, the way people think, etc., etc. And for me, I realized this is where people start to think differently, and I really started to see that. People are raised differently. Their realities are entirely different from yours, and it's hard for you to try to fracture their realities, and not even in the sense of try to fracture, but try to change their perspective about a lot of things. Like, you see a lot of people arguing about politics, religion, and sports. Well, you got to realize that a lot of people's point of view is based off what they know, and what they know is they believe to be the truth, you know, and not even to tap into the conspiracy theory side of things, but more into a consciousness and awareness side of things where you realize that you don't know the whole truth, you know, and a lot of people don't have that sense of outward thinking, that what they know to be right may not be truly right or completely right in a holistic sense, like the whole picture, you know. And from what I've learned from being a Kroger supervisor was the fact that, like I said, everybody's different, and you have to treat people differently. And that's going to translate later on into my military career and what I've done as far as being in the military, right? So I went from Kroger supervisor to working. I decided to leave there after working 2 years, and I went to Sprouts Farmers Market. Sprouts Farmers Market was different. I started off as a cashier. And everybody could see my work ethic. So immediately They moved me over to the deli department, and this is where I had my first experience in the food industry, because we used to produce a lot of foods and things like that. And once again, dealing with different people's personalities and what they wanted was prevalent here. So I became one of the higher ups in this department, and just based off my work ethic alone, once again, I've always been a man who's decided that hard work can get you places. Allowing yourself to grind and do what you got to do. Put your foot forward and do what you got to do in order to succeed. Never try to take the easy way out or anything like that. I feel like you appreciate it more when you actually earn it. And that's a major key. If you instead of earning it the fast way and messing somebody else's life up, I believe that the best thing for you to do is just get it on your own. Granted, you can have your support system. You can definitely have your support system and things that are going on in your life, but you have to be the person that takes a step. I gotta drink my water while I'm talking. This is a lot. But yeah. So around I say February, March of 2018 was when things really started to change for me. First and foremost, I've always been a person to question things. I've always been a very spiritual person. I've always been on the spiritual path, but different distractions and things kind of tie in, especially when you're still going through the motions. You realize that it's harder for you to stay conscious and aware when you have a lot of distractions going on. So I was a daily smoker, and there was things going on in my life that I can't really describe. All I can say is if you can imagine like a dark space, right? Imagine a dark space, and in the top right corner you've got a heart. You've got a heart, and it's entrapped in like this little jail, this little cell. It was like that's where my mind was, that's where my body was, that's where my spirit was. It was like my body was trapped away from being so fogged and clouded to a sense where I wasn't really following myself. I wasn't really following my purpose. So my spirituality had faded at that point, and around March 2018 was when things changed, because that was when my father had died. And at that point, as a young man at 20 years old, I did not know what I wanted to do for myself, and that was the point where I was trying to really figure myself out. So when my father's death happened, that was the turning point in my spirituality again, is when I really started to tune into myself and really started to ask myself the hard questions not even the hard questions, just the questions that made me really think about where I wanted to be in life. What am I doing here? What is my purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing, etc., etc. So eventually, after leaving Sprouts Deli, well, let's not skip that part. And after my father's death was a really rough time for me, because I had to figure out what I wanted for myself truly. And then there were these different relationships that were trying to be brought into me and stuff like that. And I just couldn't do that right at that time, because I was healing and I was grieving. And the biggest thing about it was I couldn't really figure out what I wanted for myself while trying to deal with relationships and all these other intangibles. So I've always had a sense of emotional intelligence dealing with people. I've always had that sort of third eye point of view. So let's go right into me working at Fry's. That was a whole different thing, and I picked up being a supervisor really quickly because of my work ethic and my mindset. You can do anything you put your mind to. If you believe in yourself, first and foremost, you got to have confidence and self-esteem. Now let's go right into why I joined. I joined the armed forces in order to separate myself from distractions first and foremost. I needed to get away because I was continuing to be in a cycle of smoking every day and being around people that I really didn't want to be around, on some really low vibrational, really low vibrational. And I really didn't want to allow myself to stay in that rut, stay in the mud, and I needed to get myself away, because I knew that deep within, I knew that this wasn't something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I needed that fresh start. I really needed that fresh start, and for me to do that, I had to completely change my environment. And I felt the military after being encouraged by my mother and my aunt, they encouraged me to do this, and I've always been in a military mindset. My mother and my father were both served contracts in the military, so I've always been a yes sir, yes ma'am, yes no sir, no ma'am kind of guy, giving people their respect because I want my respect as well, and that speaks volumes. So I needed to get away from home, and it was time for me to jump out of the nest and figure out what I really wanted to do in my life and figure out my purpose. Um, and my purpose, let's just go ahead and say this now, is to inspire others, first and foremost, to be the better versions of themselves. Not try to compete with other people in the world, but compete with yourself on a day-to-day basis. Um, First and foremost, man, you are your own worst enemy in the sense of the thoughts that you produce and the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, consciously making those decisions. You are the biggest enemy. You have to be able to have the discipline and consistency within yourself in order to change yourself. And I realized that at such a young age, man, such a young age. But once again, I got distracted and got away from that. But I'm just thankful for the foundation that my parents had laid for me to be able to tap back into that foundation, right? So the process of joining was kind of annoying. MEPS, military enlisted processing station. That was annoying because you had to go through all the different things. You had to go through all the questionnaires and all that stuff. Waiting around, couldn't be on your phone at MEPS because I don't know. It's stupid, but it is what it is. Recruiting was easy for me. I already had decided in my mind that I wanted to join. So me going to the recruiter was like, yeah, I'm ready to join. And he was like, no questions? I was like, no, I don't really have any questions. I'm just ready to go. So getting into MEPS. My thoughts after swearing in were, dang, I'm about to start this new journey in my life. I'm really about to do this. And that was major key for me because I really didn't feel like I was in the military until I was in boot camp, right? And I think when I swore in was like the really changing point of my mindset. It was another changing point in my mindset. I won't say it is the changing point in my mindset. Yeah, for sure. When I swore in, my thoughts were pretty much like, whoa, what am I really getting myself into? That anxiety of the unknown started to kick in, and you'll have that when you're getting into new experiences in life. And that anxiety is just preparing you for what's to come. A lot of people see anxiety as this kind of deterrent, but I see my anxiety as an opportunity to really lock in and focus. Shout out to my therapist for that because she allowed me to see anxiety in a different point of view. Anxiety is just your mind telling you that you're uncomfortable and you need to focus in if you're going to produce the results that you want. In my eyes, okay? I'm not a clinical psychologist or anything like that. I just feel as though you can use your anxiety to your advantage if you have anxiety. Okay, next. Thoughts before boot camp. So I left a month prior to me going to boot camp so I could really get my mindset together. And this was the time when I was still going to the gym and stuff like that, but I was really focusing on the gym because I knew in boot camp there's going to be a lot of physical training. So I got there, and first night of boot camp, I've already did my research on the videos. I kind of knew what to expect, right? Because I'm a person who wants to prepare mentally. So I watched all the videos. I watched what to expect, et cetera, because I knew I wanted to have at least some type of advantage going in, right? My experience in boot camp, night of arrival, wasn't that bad. We didn't go to sleep. Well, prior to me getting there, I hadn't been to sleep the day before because my anxiety was overwhelming. So I realized that just staying up and doing what I had to do, I just thug it out and get done with it. So I was up 48 hours because they don't allow you to sleep the first night. You get there at about 8 p.m. and you're waiting around, et cetera, and you got to call your parents. This is a funny moment, right? I had called my mom the moment after I got off the airplane, right? I called my mom and let her know, hey, I'm touchdown, I'm about to get ready to go in. They're going to tell us to call you again, but I'm not going to do that. I want to have my full time with my mom prior to me being in boot camp because they only give you 2 minutes. And I had an Android, right? And you're supposed to have your phone off, right? And I turned my phone on, with an Android, you got to turn your phone on, and it takes 10 minutes for that to come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes 10 minutes for it to come on. So I got this dude standing across from me as if he didn't have a phone. He was looking at me. I was like, bro, you're not going to get 2 minutes out of this phone. You're not going to get 2 minutes out of this Android that I got, bro. It's so slow. But, yeah, man, the biggest thing for me that first night was just, okay, I'm in the military, right? Trying to hurry up and accustom myself to that, right? The moment I realized I was in the military was when we was in a group, in a room full of men, and we all had to dress down, bare naked, right, and put on tighty whities. I swear to you, that was the worst moment I've ever felt in my life. It's just like, bro, like, dang. And then I grabbed the wrong size. Oh, you don't know pain. You don't know pain if you don't have it grabbed the wrong set of tighty whities. And they call them skivvies in boot camp, right? They call them skivvies, and it's oh my gosh, bro. Let's not even go through that, right? So, P days is like the first week. P days is the first week as far as the military, and I realized they couldn't beat you the first week until you're clear medically fit for full, right? So we've got these within the division, right? That's like the entirety of the group that you're placed in, right? Within the division, they've got leadership roles. And I always wanted to be the person to call the cadences because I've always had like a soulful personality. I've always been the wise one, the one wise beyond his years. So I've always wanted to be the one to keep the group in rhythm, keep everybody motivated, et cetera, because that's my passion in life. I don't really like the term motivation because motivation is a feeling that could change depending on your situation. But I've always wanted to be the one to inspire others to keep going, to keep pushing, et cetera, et cetera. That's part of my passion in life. It's part of the things that I want to push out when it comes to my journey of being who I am. So P days was funny because we was having tryouts for the position I wanted within the division, which was the cadence caller. We call it A-Rock, right? And we've got a lot going on, right? We've got a guy who got in trouble. So our drill instructor, aka our RDC as we call him in the Navy, had somebody looking at the clock and telling him at attention when 1 minute has elapsed. So we've got that going on in the background, right? And then we've got, who else? What else do we got? We got a guy putting his rack up, like our bunks, right? We call them racks. So you have to put your bunk up. It kind of like comes up and it tilts at like if you look at the clock, the bed would go from like flat to like standing at like a 3 o'clock position, not a 3 o'clock, like a 2 o'clock position, right? It would be tilted, right? And you have to put a stick up in order to hold the rack up. So our RDC goes, whose rack up is without the stick? Whose rack is up without the stick? So we got a guy, he's like, it was me, petty officer. So he's like, you're going to do rack up, stick down, stick down, and you're going to scream it until I'm tired of you, right? So, and then we got the cadence tryouts going on at the same time. So you've got me giving cadence 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, right? You got that going on, right? And then you've got basically what I would say, how can I say this? You got the guy doing the what is the term here? He's standing at attention. He's going, 1 minute has elapsed, petty officer. 1 minute has elapsed, petty officer. 1 minute has elapsed, petty officer. It's so crazy, right? And you got the guy in the background, rack up, stick up, boom, 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 boom. Right down, stick down. And it's fucking hilarious. I swear to you, it's the most hilarious thing I've ever heard in my life. And this is when I realized, I was like, I'm really in the military. I'm really in the military. All right, so next thing's coming up is this is when things started really changing for me in boot camp, right? So let's talk about what I learned while being in boot camp, right? So once again, you're dealing with personalities, and I originally picked up this second in command leadership position, right? And that's the person who sings the cadences. He's second in command, and then what I learned while doing that was gaining a laser eye for things, right? I was basically first in command. Let's just go ahead and say that right now. I was basically first in command. Um, I was up before everybody. I swear to you. I had literally, like, you know how people talk about mama mentality and stuff like that? No, I embodied that. If we had to be up at 5 o'clock, I was up at 3:30. Why? Let me explain to you why, right? I have to get up and get myself ready first and foremost, right? So I'm up 3:30, brushing my teeth, shaving, in order to be ready. Got my bed made, etc., etc. By the time the RDCs walk in, I'm already standing at parade rest, right? But in addition to that, I have to wake up everybody else so they can be ready earlier instead of us being, because what they call it is reveille. You got 15 minutes to get up, get ready, right? We all know that 15 minutes is not enough time in order to get ready for the day. So get up early, get it in early, and then you'll be ready, standing there, parade rest, bed already made, uniform on, boots on, etc., etc. By the time the RDCs walk in, and this is where I said, you know, different people's personalities, you know, their work ethic, etc., etc. Because you would go through, and you try to wake them up, and they wouldn't wake up, right? Because people don't like to be woken up, and I can understand that. You know, you want to get as much sleep as you can because you know it's going to be a long, demanding day. We're up 13 to 14 hours a day just because that's what boot camp demands out of you. And I just gained that laser eye, that focus, that Mamba mentality while I was in. I really had tapped into that side of myself. And I realized that, once again, a lot of people are going to work differently from me. And I had to learn the lesson of you can't put yourself into other people. You know, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. Okay? These are the things that you have to think about when it comes to dealing with other people. People will make the choices that only benefit them. You can't push them into a choice, right? It's their choice to make the choice, you know? And in saying that, I realized while I was in boot camp that I'm just going to be the best version of myself that I can be and let my actions speak for me, right? And I just unlocked that inner competitive edge with myself, right? And I realized, a thing I really realized was from a quote that my mom had sent me 3 weeks in, which was, the will to win, the desire to succeed, the urge to reach your full potential. These are the keys that will unlock the door to personal excellence. And at that moment, my switch was flipped. I had that Kobe Mamba mentality, I was embodying that. I still body that to this day. And I learned, right? And this is where that emotional intelligence from working the 9 to 5s had really kicked in, those leadership positions, because I realized that everybody needs to be treated a different way, and as a leader, you have to understand that. So it was one day where I was up before everybody, and I realized, I was like, hey, let me try something different, right? As a leader, you want to make sure you provide the best possible outcome for everybody. So I went around, and instead of waking everybody up, like, hey, bro, get up, it was like, yo, reveille's in about 30 minutes. Go ahead and start getting yourself together. Wake up. Let's be good about today. Come on, we gonna knock today out, etc., etc. Just giving people that sense of, hey, even if we're in boot camp right now, let's knock this shit out and get to the end goal, which is graduating and getting to where the fuck we needed to be in the Navy. So, and that small change made everybody's day better. Waking them up in a more genuine, real, authentic manner made people feel more engaged in waking up and doing what they needed to do, because they woke up, he was like, bro, I thought you were my dad, bro. I thought you were my big brother. Like, waking me up like that was like so much better than how other people have been waking me up. And it's like, yo, like, well, we're all in here fucking suffering, so we all have to do something in order to make life at least a little easier, right? And nobody wants to be woken up to get the fuck up, because that's literally what happens at 5 in the morning if you're not up prior to the 15 minutes when you're supposed to be getting ready, right? Because 15 minutes is not enough time. It's not enough time. So you have to gain that competitive edge and just tap into something that you don't really tap into if you was outside of an intense, high-stress situation like the military, right? So, continuing on. I realized that sometimes you do have to be the villain. You have to be the villain sometimes, and being second in command, you got to discipline people. And I did that a lot, and I call it becoming one with the shadow. You know, you have to be able to understand the monster within you, right? Not even the monster in the sense of the the production value, but like the evil that you can produce when it comes to being a leader. Like you have to have a stern foothold when it comes to dealing with people, especially grown men. Like a lot of grown men is always going to be this low level of violence between men, right? Like if I was to say to a man that his mother is fat or anything like that, that could spark an entire conflict just off that alone, right? But let's just go ahead and skip past everything. So I went to school for a year after that to learn my job, and then I finally reached my command. I started dealing with new personalities, and I've already, like I said, I've been in this nose to the grindstone mentality. Stay down until I come up, right? And this is when I started to realize different things, and I started to really tap into myself again. When I started, I came in, nose to the grindstone, let's get this done, etc., because I was at the bottom of the totem pole, right? They didn't even send me to my command to actually do my job. They sent me to what they call a line shack. And the line shack is basically like the bitch work division, right? You do all the stuff that nobody else does. And I'm just going to keep it short like that, right? Hanging out with coworkers, I realized, right? And this is where the laws of power by Robert Greene really started to apply, right? I realized hanging out with coworkers was not something I really wanted to do, because I realized that they were doing things that I used to do prior to joining the military, which was hang out, get drunk, and just do nothing with our lives. And I was just like, that's not the type of time I want to be on. You know, that's just not something that I've been there, done that. I'm beyond that at this point, right? I'm at a point now in my life where I've got fucking YouTube videos up from Jordan B. Peterson. I'm listening to Zen Buddhism. You know, here's the thing, right? My sense of spirituality doesn't come from tarot cards or stones or, you know, like astrology. Like astrology's cool. I did my research on it, but it's not my thing. My thing is asking the real questions that change the way you think. And that comes in the sense of, this is where things start to get, this is where I start dropping gems. It's like, let's talk about how I started to wake people up, right? I had an emotional intelligence and rhetorical sensitivity. That's a big one. Make sure you look that up. Rhetorical sensitivity. I'm going to try to put it up on screen if I can. Rhetorical sensitivity is basically the way that you present, how you present to other people, because you understand what you say may affect people in different ways. That's rhetorical sensitivity, in a sense of the fact that the tone of speech, the way you present it, is more dangerous depending on how you do it, right? So, like I said, my sense of spirituality comes from, let's say I'm a Christian rooted man, right? But I've delved my roots further into other religions, right? I'm not allowing myself to just be limited by blind faith of Christianity. I understand that there are different truths in every religion, right? And I am so proud of myself to say that, because I don't want to just be led in blind faith by just one religion. I want to understand that there are different philosophies in every single religion. And that's my sense of spirituality. And that's why I love Zen Buddhism and Islam a lot, because Islam acknowledges that there are other religions. Islam acknowledges that if I was to limit myself to just one religion, I was just reading this out of Islam and the Destiny of Man by Guy Eaton. That's a good book if you're really looking into how Islam works and stuff like that. Where was my mind at? Where was my mind at? Okay, right? Islam literally acknowledges Christianity. It acknowledges Jesus as a prophet. It acknowledges Moses as a prophet, etc., etc. It doesn't say, no, these people weren't it. They actually accept different religions, right? And I love that for Islam, because it doesn't limit the belief of one religion, right? It accepts these different forms of religious entities into their own religion, because trying to explain, you have to realize that you're limited in your knowledge as far as it comes to God, religion and spirituality, right? You do not have the whole truth or the complete truth, right? Um, and with Zen Buddhism, it kind of taps in more, right, with the 3 levels of mental complexity. Make sure you research this, right? 3 levels of mental complexity is basically an awareness of what your level of thinking is, right? And I realized, being a level 3 thinker, that it's easier for me to just be quiet when it comes to listening to other people, because a lot of people just love hearing themselves talk, right? A lot of people just love hearing themselves talk and not really talking about anything, right? And I get this a lot from, just hanging out with people or being around people 24/7. It's just like, bro, like, you're not really saying anything. You're not saying anything of like true importance. And make sure you tap into the 3 levels of mental complexity. Make sure you look at Plato's allegory of the cave. And this will truly give you an insight of where you are when it comes to your consciousness and your awareness and the way you think, etc., etc. So, hanging out with coworkers, I realized that a lot of people aren't on the same journey with me. I realized that I was going back to my antisocial ways and being introverted, right? Because I felt I got more out of myself by coming back into my room, putting on a YouTube video, and literally listening and interpreting different types of perspectives, right? That's what I do on a daily basis. I literally listen to, when I'm at work too, I'm listening to podcasts. I'm not just listening to music, because like, music is always going to be there, right? But these type of conversations that people are having, these thought-provoking conversations, are the things that I try to encourage when I'm in my community. It's like, yo, what can you do to change yourself now, right? Who are you without your thoughts, emotions, and feelings? These kind of questions are the questions that really, really, really invoke my spirituality, right? Because it's questions that rewire the entire framework of my mind. It literally bends the perspective or bends the reality of my mind. You see what I'm saying? Those are the type of questions that I ask and try to encourage in my community, because, and it's just talking to people in general, because it's like a lot of people just get caught up in the facade of this is who I am and this is how I identify. And it's like, well, who are you if your mom didn't tell you this who you were? Who are you if the culture that you grew up in was to like cease to exist? Who are you without all of that stuff? That's what I think about. And I just had this sense of self-focus when I got in and hanging out with coworkers and stuff like that. I was like, I'm not finna sit here and do this with you guys. Like, I'm so focused on myself that all the relationships that come with all this stuff, and you see a lot of things in the military, man. You see, and I'm not here to bash the military or anything like that, but you see a lot of things when it comes to this stuff. It's just like, whoa, this is not supposed to be happening. But I realized that I could start chaos by knowing what I know, right? I could literally start the chaos. But I'm not going to, I have to be the change that I want to see for the world, right? And I'm real. I'm totally authentic when it comes to speaking my mind and stuff like that. So it was at a point where I had got in trouble, right? I had got in trouble for a situation here in my command. And they made me write a 2,000-word essay, right? And in the most subtle ways, it was like, they made me write an essay about integrity because of the situation. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure that they understand the true definition of integrity, right? Because I see a lot of things that go on within this command that integrity would spit in the face of the command if it really saw it, right? So, and in this essay, I basically was like, I basically, in a summary, I was like, I see what you guys are doing. Don't allow me to really speak my mind. Because if I do, everybody in this shop is getting in trouble. That's literally what I was saying. It was like, I see what goes on here. And I see it. So don't allow this one mistake to be the... Granted, I take responsibility for my mistake, right? I take responsibility. I know what I did wasn't supposed to be what I was supposed to do. But if y'all want to talk about integrity, y'all need to write this essay too. Because a lot of y'all don't know the true definition of integrity, right? So, let's get into the Q&A. This is probably the part where people were waiting to see. I just wanted to give a follow-up or a background to, what's been going on as far as my military career and the things that I've learned on the way. And it's a lot more, and those are questions that people are going to have to DM me and ask me about. But we're just going to get into the Q&A portion of it. The first question was, would I do it again, right? And my thing is, right, I don't necessarily hate the armed forces, right? I just strongly don't like the fact that I'm not in control of things because I'm an 8 on the Enneagram test, right? And an 8 always wants to be in control of things, right? And they say the strength of an 8 falls in allowing other people to have control, allowing other people to take control, right? And that's just like, that goes against who I am as a person because it's like, I need to have control. Like, not in a dominating sense, but I just need to know what's going on in the sense of so my mind can figure out what else I need to do, right? So would I do it again? Well, I've been thinking about it, right? And the thing is, I don't want to just do ship orders. I don't want to just be attached to a ship and I've always wanted to travel and stuff like that, but in the Navy, I also wanted to, I would see myself as a drill sergeant. I could definitely see myself as a drill sergeant, right? And I could definitely see myself as an instructor as well, So that's what I was telling people. I was like, the only way I can do this is if I'm a drill sergeant, or technically an REC in Navy terms, or if I'm an instructor teaching my job, right? Because in teaching, you allow yourself to you express to the younger generation, like, this is how you should treat yourself, et cetera, et cetera. This is, and you can give gems to the younger generation, and that right there is, like I said, legacy I'm getting that tatted on me. That's like legacy. I live by death before dishonor code, so I'm gonna be real and authentic at all times, 24/7. And I realize that a lot of people are not gonna value my opinion because I speak the truth, right? And the thing about that is, like I said, a lot of people are just going to listen to themselves talk because they love to listen to themselves talk. And I'd rather just listen to them talk because it's like, wow, the more I listen to you, the more I realize that you don't know. And I'm not saying I know it all. Like, I'm very humble in the sense of coming to a point where it's just like, bro, I know nothing. I've suffered an ego death. I know what it means for pride and ego to be in a situation. I know what it means when your emotions are out of control. But do I know it all? Fuck no. Absolutely not. But moving into the next question. Well, first, would I do it again? It depends, right? It depends on, one, my college, right? How long it takes for me to get my college, right? Get my college degree, et cetera, et cetera. Because I'm not going to just go for my associate's or bachelor's. I'm going for my master's. So however much they can use in order to pay for my master's, you know what I'm saying? I might have to do another contract in order to, oh, look at that, deleted. But I literally have to, what would I do? Yeah, I literally would have to really think about that again in a sense of where my goals and my future aligns, right? Because I see it as though I might have to do another contract just so I can finish my college, right? But that's not a big deal to me because at that point I'll be doing short duty and hopefully I'm on the East Coast closer to my family and I can just do what I want to do, right? So let's talk about the next question, which is pros and cons. Pros and cons, I would say, of course, the pros would be benefits. Cons would be, let's just start with pros, right? Let's start with pros. Pros would be the benefits that come with it, but you only see the pros later in your journey in the Navy career. It's not like you come in and you get the benefits. After 3 years, you start to get the tuition assistance, the GI bills, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see. What other pros are there? I feel like the sacrifice that you make makes you appreciate being around family a lot more, and that's also a con as well, being separated from family. But I think a pro is being by yourself allows you to really, being by yourself allows you really to learn yourself, especially as somebody like me who's on a very spiritual journey. I realized that, like, I really need to be by myself to truly unpack the subconscious, to do the shadow work. And please, feel free to DM me about any of these things if you've heard. Like, I'm always here to give people perspective about the things I've learned. So being by myself allowed me to really, I had to shake my mouse a little bit, my screen went off because I'm sitting here talking to you guys. But stuff really allowed me to tap into myself. Like, I've acquired my knowledge to read, meditate again, write, journal out my thoughts, develop a routine for myself. That's a major key because discipline and consistency are going to be the reasons why I am who I am today and who I am in the future. Having that schedule and stuff like that. Cons are, you know, being a spiritual person and being a person of high intellect. I realize that the mundane conversations, like the talks about superheroes and fucking bitches and like as a man, stuff like that doesn't really appeal to me anymore. Stuff really appeals to me in the sense that the questions that I ask on a day-to-day basis, those thought-provoking questions that I was talking to people about, like that I was saying earlier, like who am I without my thoughts, feelings, emotions, and the stories that I've developed? Who am I without that stuff? Those are the questions that really get me going. And I'm not knocking anybody for not trying to live on a very spiritual journey like me, but that's just who I am now. I don't want to allow myself to just be limited to just the mundane conversations. I ask the questions that are really going to change the way I think. Um, and kind of that is just like a lot of people in the military don't have that sense of perspective, or you can't have a lot of those conversations while being in the military. So another con, dealing with coworkers, dealing with the personalities. I would say dealing with authority, because once again, I like to be in control, and a lot of things in the military are out of my control. And I will say a pro of learning that is the law of detachment. I've really allowed myself to detach from being in the workspace, and that's a major key. A lot of people talk about the law of detachment, the law of manifestation, law of attraction, but to really be able to attach is to be able to choose what you suffer from. That's a major key. To be able to choose what you suffer from. Okay, well, they're making the decisions. Okay, well, what can I do in order to just make sure I'm not allowing myself to fall into the pit of hatred, and emotion, right? We're coming up on 5 minutes, so I'm gonna try to keep it going. My job and what I do, I can't really explain any of that for operation security purposes. I don't know who's listening to this, so I'll just keep moving. Do you like it? I've detached from it, to say the least. I've detached from it. I don't. This is not my passion in life. My passion is to inspire others. I simply want to be the best version of myself, and by doing that and being the better version of myself, other people see that, and other people will follow that, and other people will look at me as a leader, as they already do. Not even on a egotistical, cocky way. A lot of people look at me as a leader because they know I'm wise beyond my years, and I carry myself. That's a rule. That's a law of power by Robert Greene. Carry yourself like a king to be treated like one. I carry myself like a god. I don't allow myself to radiate on a low vibration. I don't allow that. I set my boundaries with people, and I don't allow people to overstep their boundaries, because I will put you in check if I got to. That's major key, because humans, you give them an inch, they will take the mile. I've detached from stuff like that, and I've literally just focused on myself, because I realized that a lot of people don't live the way you live, and a lot of people are not on the same journey you're on. So continue to focus on what you focus on. How long do I plan on staying, and why? Like I said, it depends on my plans in the future, which is college, first and foremost. My major, I'm going into psychology, probably clinical psychology. I want to be a deep thinker. I want to delve more into human behaviors and things like that. So sorry if I'm speaking a little fast. I realize I'm running out of time here, but I just want to get through these questions. Like I said, depending on my college, depending on how long that takes, et cetera, with the benefits of the tuition assistance and the GI Bill, things like that are going to translate into how long I stay, right? I can't give you a definite answer, but there you go. Why am I such a nerd? That was a question. I realized that I'd rather be more of a nerd and understand. I'm not even a nerd. I just realized that there's so much to learn, right? And the fact that I know that I don't know allows me to continue the journey of spirituality that I'm on, continuing to learn and grow every single day, to be a person that's better, 1% better every single day, right? I love that for myself. Because it's a journey that will last forever, right? Yes, why I am so, next question was, yes, why am I so handsome? I love you, Mom. I love you so much. Thank you so much. And last things, I got 3 minutes left. So, reflective thoughts. I always think about how my dad said I'm going to be so smart in life. I've dove into this, and I realized I was just like, wow, like my dad was like spot on when it comes to this, like so smart, right? And I think about this a lot, like even when I'm talking to you guys, I'm thinking about this. It's like to hear myself speak like this. I never thought I would be here. And that just speaks to the type of growth that I've had over these past couple of years of really learning myself and tapping into myself. And while being in the armed forces is a harsh situation, you realize you got to balance a lot of things, especially as a young black man, right? You got to balance consciousness and awareness. You got to be a good family man. You got to be good friends. You got to start building relationships, right? You got to invest. You got to be financially literate. These things continually, all these things you gotta learn. You gotta balance, right? And that's where the routine comes into play, because you give yourself time every single day. Everybody says it's 24 hours, but how are you using those hours? You know what I'm saying? And if you have a routine, it makes things a lot easier. So, listen, man. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, first and foremost, man, you are the truth. Thank you so much for everything you do. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, mind, body, and soul, peace, prosperity, and power. I wish you the best journey in life. Continue to be disciplined and do what you got to do in order to succeed, man. I love every single person who decided to come through and listen to me speak, because this is something I wanted to get off my chest. And I encourage you to come and see me at twitch.tv/McLavishh. If you have a question, I'm normally streaming Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, sometimes throughout the week. And I want to encourage that to everybody, man, okay? Like I said, twitch.tv/McLavishh. Come tap in with me. It's your boy McLavishh. Peace, prosperity, and power. Mind, body, and soul. Death before dishonor, man. Stay sturdy out there. This world will eat you up and swallow you if you don't have the mindset, if you're not in one with your mind, body, and soul. We out of here, man. Stay blessed. Alhamdulillah.